Welcome to the Indiana 4-H Clover Call podcast, where our goal is to share information about the people and programs that make the Indiana 4-H Youth Development Program such an important part of our communities. We welcome youth and adult 4-H volunteers, 4-H youth and their families, extension professionals, and any others who are interested in providing positive opportunities for youth. We thank you for joining us for this episode, which begins now.
Okay, great. Today we're having casual conversations with two of my volunteers here in Clinton County, and I'll let them introduce themselves and we'll go from there.
I'm Leah Harden, and I suppose I wear two hats. One in my professional life, I work for the Clinton County Soil and Water Conservation District. But as far as 4-H goes, I would have to say a lot of my involvement's also been my personal life, raising two boys who were 10-year 4-H members. And my husband was very actively involved in 4-H growing up as well. And so I think in the end, I didn't grow up in a 4-H family, but in the end, my husband and the good things that he talked about with his involvement in 4-H as a child kind of fostered my wanting to become involved in 4-H as a supportive mom to my kiddos. So that's
good.
I'm Melissa Miller. Professionally, I guess if you want to call it professionally, to me it's just having fun and getting paid for it. I am the youth and ag specialist for Casper Media, and then I'm also an on-air personality. In fact, I even co-host a ag program called All Things Ag with Adam Shanks, our extension, I want to call him agent because I'm old. He can tell you his actual title.
No, it's agent. That's okay.
You like that? Okay. And then
Educator means you're educated, and that's not.
Well, I was going to stay away from that just because I've known you for a long time, but, hey, if you want to self-deprecate, that's you. Anyway, that's my professionally, that's what I do. As far as 4-H and being a volunteer, I started out in 4-H as a kid. I married into a very strong 4-H family, and of course our kids grew up 4-H, so it's kind of snowballed from the beginning, and ended up becoming a leader when my kids, their 4-H leader was stepping down because of a work situation, and my son came home and he said please, and that's all it took. I've been a leader for 20 years, and I've gotten talked into a lot of things here at the extension office as well, and that's fine, that we're here for the kids, and that's the main reason.
Well, good. I was going to ask you kind of what drove your interest, and you've told us that. So why have you continued all these years?
Partially because I've been told I can't quit until I die. But no, it's for the kids. They keep me young, for one. For two, I enjoy watching how things have evolved with our youth and with the actual program. I mean, we have programs now, we have projects now in the 4-H program that didn't exist when I was there. They didn't even exist when my kids were in. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of cool to see the progression of what's available to them, the life skills that have adapted to have generationally, say it right, generationally adapted, and I think that's really cool, and to be a part of that as an adult volunteer is fantastic. But like I said, I get threatened every once in a while that I can't quit, and I like the fact that it's family oriented. My my daughter is now a 4-H leader, and I've kind of stepped back let her take the lead on our club, and then I took over Clover Buds, and I have the babies. I have the kindergarten and first grade, and I love it. So, I mean, that's my take on it.
So for me, I think my continued involvement has morphed or changed over the years. In the beginning, it was to encourage my own children to be involved and to be supportive for them. and as they, kind of left 4-H and went on for their college careers and their jobs, their personal careers, then I think my involvement kind of changed to adopt, so to speak, other people's children and to help foster the same kind of positive experience that my children had through the program. I kind of, right now at this point in time, think that I kind of focus more on the things that I'm most passionate about. For my children, I tried to steer them in the direction of exploring new things, different types of projects that help them with so many different things, time management, their social skills, etc., etc. And so now it's more centers more around the natural resources projects, because that's what I'm more passionate about. And I love seeing the little 4-Hers kind of grow up into the confident 4-Hers. I agree with Melissa. It's very rewarding to see them grow into confident young men and women who go on to do great things for our community, and that really honestly is what we need, the change that we need in our communities. 4-H, the kids that go through the 4-H program are more likely going to be the ones that are going to be that change, and so that's.
Well, and for me, I get the chance to experience through my grandson. So, not only my children, but now my grandson, who is full-fledged 4-H now. Last year was his first year as a, is that right? No, second year as a full-fledged, got to think about grade, 4-Her. So, seeing him explore projects that maybe my kids didn't do, even though his mom's not happy about that, I think that's a lot of fun. And to see, like you said, to see the kids grow up into mature adults and watch them come back in to the program. I mean, we have Bethany, who, I watched her grow up. She's the same age as my daughter. I watched them go through 4-H together. I saw Karen go through 4-H.
Hannah McFalls.
Who's, she's now going to be an ag teacher, but also she's our assistant superintendent with the Beef Club. I got the opportunity to see Karen go all the way through 4-H, and here she is running Clinton County 4-H and the extension office as well. So that's kind of cool to watch them come back and come back to the program that they were a part of.
For sure. So I love this program too, and I'm glad I do get a chance to run it, but I mean, it's through volunteers like you, and we love to partner and do different things with Adam and the drones and farm education conservation camp and just anything that you see a need or that we need here in the county. And that kind of brings us to our next question, like, what do you hope to see for the future?
I want to see continued growth as far as technology and adaptability, which I think there are. And I've had the opportunity to go around the state through various organizations and programs and stuff that I have done, and there are some counties that are still backward. To me it's backward because they're not as far advanced as what we are in some of the things that they're offering. And I like the fact that our county is very forward progressive in that regard, but still morally, I don't know how exactly I want to word it, that they're not so far progressed that they're forgetting the family aspect of it, no matter what that family looks like, because let's face it, families don't look the same as they used to. Not when we grew up, not when our parents grew up. The family is made up of different different perspectives. So, and that's one of the things that we've been really good about, adapting for everyone. And even our projects have inclusivity, if I can say it right,
No, you said it right.
Say it for me,
Yeah,
whatever.
inclusivity.
And,
I think that's
thank
right.
you. There you go. Thank you. Yeah, sometimes I can't speak. For somebody on the radio, you'd think it would be possible. But anyway, I like the fact that we are constantly moving forward. Whereas there's a lot who say, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, it don't have to be broke to be improved. And I like the fact that we do that here. And I want to see that continue. I'd like to see the next generation coming in. We're seeing it. We're very fortunate. We're seeing some of that next generation stepping up and coming in because, you know, eventually I'm going to get too old for this. That's the way it's going to be. And I like the fact that we're seeing the younger generation starting to come up and volunteer and get involved. And just as a leader, I have parents right now that have already said, you know, right now their kids are going through, and I understand where they come from because I didn't really want to get in too deep until my kids were out because I wanted to be able to look at it from a fair perspective and not a parent perspective. But I've already got younger parents that have already said, when you're ready to retire, we'll take care of it. We'll step in. So, you know, I know my club is going to flourish. It's going to continue to go, and it's been 1922 was when our club was founded. So,
Oh, wow.
So it's nice to know.
Yeah.
Certainly is. Yeah. I agree with a lot of what Melissa said about the future of the program. I think that adapting, that's going to be a key part of the future of the 4-H program and extension. Our farms are getting bigger, so there are fewer farming families. So I think at one point in time that 4-H was probably considered more of an agricultural related program, and now, you know, with those types of changes, you know, then the programming that offered is going to have to align more, you know, urban agriculture, you know, that garden in the backyard, or container gardening, yes, those kinds of things, you know, knowing where their food comes from. It's just going to have to look a little different than maybe what it did for my husband, even, you know, or, you know, his parents or whatever. But and, you know, the science, technology, engineering, and math, the STEM, which has already, you know, been incorporated. And so I do think, you know, that is a super great change. But I think that, just a willingness to adapt to meet the needs of the ever-changing population or demographic of the community. If we're speaking specifically about Clinton County, I'm not talking big picture here. In my mind, I'm thinking, you know, Clinton County. So I just think that will be the name of the game, you know, to keep the interest of the ones who the program is trying to affect.
Sure.
There's always been that stigmatism there of the cows, sows, and plows, and that's not the case anymore.
No.
Yeah, or Susie Homemaker. There's always been, and the fact that there used to be, it was girls 4-H and boys 4-H, and the two did not mix. And I got the chance in my generation to see that mold get broken completely. It got shattered. And the fact that now, you know, like you said, STEM is huge, and Clinton County, you know, not looking at any other county, but Clinton County has embraced that and continues to build on that program. I'm waiting for Adam to develop the drone program for the 4-H side of it. I know he's got a great program, and he's teaching the adults how to do so. even though I scratched my head because I didn't get any of it when you guys were trying to teach me. But to be able to get out there and see that technology and what they can do with it, and I'm waiting. He's going to develop. He's going to eventually develop that once he gets his feet wet here with the Beef Club.
Yeah. Well, I know in the aerospace project they're bringing in drones and things like that, so that's really cool.
So
I can see that program really growing, especially with you as a resource.
We tried to, with the Spark Club last year.
Yeah.
Tried to, and COVID. So we'll get it back on.
Yeah.
COVID kind of set in and slowed us down on a lot of things. But now that things are starting to begin slowly, we're beginning to see life return to almost normal. I mean, it's not going to be normal, but it's going to get close to it. That I think we'll be able to grow some of those programs that we had to put on hold.
And we still do want to be progressive, and it really does come through fruition through volunteers like you, right? So you still have those traditional values, but you still have that adaptability and that growth mindset. And so, I mean, obviously I want to thank you for what you guys have done and continue to do. And I mean, we couldn't run 4-H, of course, without our volunteers
Well, we couldn't do it without your guidance.
That's very true.
Well, thank you.
I mean, we have to, we can volunteer all we want, but we got to know what we're volunteering for, and we have to know what is expected, what you need from us, and we can't do that without your guidance. So,
Well, thank you. Yeah, and I get quite a bit of guidance from the university, so it works well. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else that anybody wants to add, or?
I don't know.
We're pretty good shape.
Oh, we could probably talk all day.
All day,
Yeah, I was gonna say we could talk on. I like the fact. Well, okay, let's turn this around just a little bit. You've gone from being that little snot-nosed third grader. Well, no, not Karen. She wasn't.
She's a cheater.
Her sister might have been, but she wasn't. You can tell Carol I said that too. But you've gone from that third grader, getting your feet wet. You went through the mini program because Ross did, so I know you did. And now to be where you're at now. So when did you, throughout your 4-H career, when did you feel like this is something that you wanted to do? Because you went to college for this, so there had to be a point.
Yeah, I think it probably was in college, and actually. In high school, they used to tease me I was the A- girl, so it's like couldn't quite get what I wanted, but I was close enough, and so in college, same deal happened. Like I had enough scholarships and things like that, I think, to pay for the first year of college, and then other people lost eligibility, and my name came up on the list for the 4-H fee remission scholarship, and they called me at my apartment and, is this Karen Puckett? Yeah. And they're like, hey, other people lost eligibility, your name came up. So, I mean, I tell you what, God just opens the doors and directs our lives in just ways we just can't imagine. And that was one of them. So I didn't earn that scholarship the first time around, right? But then when others had lost eligibility, and then my name came up on the list of all things. And so I've always loved 4-H. I loved FFA. I knew I was going to go to Purdue in the School of Ag and the College of Ag now. But and so I thought I was going to get a sales job. I had ag sales and marketing, and then I did go back into school just for this, for the education part of it. And it just worked out because I was working at Purdue in the research park and got riffed, and they said, we will guarantee you an interview in any department you want. They couldn't guarantee the job, but the interview. And I'm like, I want to go to Clinton County Extension. And so Kurt Emanuel was here, and he was like, well, obviously there aren't any other candidates, so. I think they tried to get some other candidates, and they had backed out or whatnot. So again, my name came up on the list, and then, and so the rest is history. So yeah, I mean, I grew up here. I love this community, love this county, and so
I love that story. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I knew most
stuff.
of it. I knew most of it. I didn't know quite all of it.
So fun stuff. But yeah, so I mean, my joy and my privilege to be here, and my kids are in the program, and my parents, are in the program.
Sure.
So it is generational, and we like to see that progress and be a part of it. So
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what you mean. I started late. I was in high school when I got into 4-H, but I was into everything else.
yeah.
And it wasn't until I started dating my husband that he seemed to think that I needed to be in 4-H too. And that's how I got into it, because I was a sports kid.
Oh, yeah.
I was a kid that I did every sport there was, and I had 3 older brothers that did all the sports, and I wanted to be better than them, and so I made sure I was. And, that kind of thing, and that was my competition. But then getting introduced and hanging out with him and his brother, I got the opportunity to meet more of people that were actually in my class that I didn't know were in 4-H. I didn't know anything about it. So the more I got to hanging with them, then it was like, okay, you hang out in the livestock barns, and I went up and I learned more about the building projects, and I actually did a lot of the building projects besides show pigs because he thought I needed to. And, but that's how I got introduced to 4-H.
Yeah.
So osmosis, or whatever you want to call it, And then later, when my parents passed away and we were going through everything, how you sit and you go through all the memorabilia and everything, we found where my parents had actually, my brothers were not in 4-H when they lived here in town before they moved out in the country. But, because my brothers were all little, they were too little for 4-H. But my parents volunteered for 4-H. They were volunteers. They took kids on trips. They helped with projects. It was really cool to see all this 4-H memorabilia from my parents' involvement. Even though they never said word one to any of us kids, even when I went into 4-H, I didn't know anything about it until after they had passed, is when we found out that they had been very big volunteers in 4-H programs at Jackson. Is where they were at. So
Jackson County?
Jackson Township. Jackson Township here.
Yeah. Huh. Well, that's neat. Yeah.
And even some of my friends' parents have, of course, when you get into 4-H, you get friends from all over the county.
All over.
Because you don't have that school rivalry in 4-H.
Right. Yeah.
So even some of my friends' parents that were in that Jackson program later on came up and were bringing me pictures of my mom and dad helping with their club. So it was kind of cool.
Well, I don't know, are we still recording?
Yeah.
I might even go a little step further in talking about, so I think one of the questions that we talked about is favorite 4-H memories. And my youngest son, 4-H romance, when he was a freshman and she was an 8th grader. They are now married and have 2 children. And so, 4-H does. And she was from a different school.
And your youngest son still swears that my grandson is named after him.
So it's cool because it's generational, and a lot of times you get those volunteers, and I see this at the fair too, because you're born into this family that serves, right? You give and you serve, and it's everywhere. Yeah, they might be a 4-H volunteer, but they're on the fire department, and they're volunteers for all these other things too. So it is really cool, and the relationships you build, and they last a lifetime.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic.
Oh, my son-in-law and Carrie and her husband, my daughter and her son and my son-in-law, they met for the first time at a 4-H meeting. There's enough of an age difference that she was a little kid when there's 8 years between them. So he was in high school. And then he came back to help with a function that we were doing for the club, and it was like an anniversary thing. And we invited everybody back. Well, Carrie was in high school by then. She was actually graduating and getting ready to go to college. And they kind of reconnected and re-met, and he even had to come and ask me who that was because he didn't recognize her, after all that time. But I mean, they've been married now 11 years, almost 12. So
it's fun to reminisce, and
that's a neat story.
And-
Your
yeah.
son met his
Yeah.
wife through 4-H.
Yep.
That's cool.
Well, at the risk of embarrassing her. She actually liked my older son first. And, there was just too big of an age gap there. So, but anyway.
Yeah. Well, it worked out. What's meant to be is meant to be.
That is right.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, thank you so much. Anything else anybody wants to share? This has been fun.
Melissa didn't give her favorite memory.
My favorite memory doesn't necessarily, well,
That'd be hard to choose probably, but I'm sure you've got one.
to an extent, yeah. I mean, if we want to go clear back to when I was in 4-H, my favorite memory would be it wasn't my project, it was my brother-in-law's. And he won grand champion barrow. And this daggone barrow, I swear, it could jump fences. And it would jump at the farm. At the farm, it would clear the fence every morning. You would go out, because my pigs were there too. So we would go out and we'd take care of everything together, and we'd walk them and all that stuff. This thinking barrow of his, all the rest of them would stay in the pens, and we'd get them out and we'd walk them and everything else. This barrow, we'd get out there as soon as the sun was up, and it was gone. Every time, it was gone. It would jump the fence, it would take off down the lane, go back in the woods where the creek and everything else was at. We wouldn't see that thing until it came back at night to eat. That's when it would show back up. So it did all its own running, it did everything. We never walked that thing because we got tired of chasing it and bringing it back. All the rest of them well trained, everything else. We get to the fair. None of the pigs wanted to behave. It was a hot year. They didn't want to do anything. They were hot. They were miserable. They just wanted to get back to their pens under the fans and be cool. Except this one, the barrow that he won grand champion with, overall grand champion. That daggone thing walked like it had been walked every day from birth. It looked great, of course, because it'd been jumping and running, and it had fantastic muscle structure. Oh, yeah, great muscle tone and everything. And the only thing that we could ever get it to come to us with was potato chips and Pepsi. So right before it went in the ring, it downed a bottle of Pepsi, and when it came back out of the ring, it was looking for a bottle of Pepsi. And he won grand champion barrow with that thing. I could have killed him. That's a good one. That's what I that's my favorite memory from, when I was a kid. My own daughter, when she won grand champion, they came, that was the year her and 2 other girls took 27 sheep.
Oh, wow.
And guess who got to fit 27 sheep? They came yelling at me, you gotta come, you gotta come. I had a ram in the stand. And they said, you gotta come, you gotta come. So Pam Clemens, God bless her, made somebody else, because Bethany was in the ring too, made somebody else come and watch my ram so that I could go to the ring, because both the girls were in for the grand champion drive. And I got there just in time for the judge to shake Carrie's hand, and they gave her the banner. So I almost missed it. But that's probably, that would be pretty darn close. And then my grandson's showing his calf for the first time last year, stopping by the radio stand and smiling at me. So I made sure that Grandma got a good look. So.
I think some of the favorite memories too don't even actually happen in the show ring. Sometimes those favorite memories are and that, again, this wouldn't be necessarily from a volunteer perspective, but from the 4-H'ers perspective. But I think about the lambs that we bottle fed in the kitchen, and the late nights, in the cold, pulling, lambs, or or I think about junior leaders and some of those fun trips the junior leaders took after 4-H, and after as their completion reward, when they were finished. And so I think
4-H camp.
Yeah,
4-H camp. Yeah. That was always fun. I loved going to camp.
Things.
Yeah. Well, it is. It's more than just the fair. We have so
Yeah.
many opportunities. So, well, this was an excellent opportunity. I just appreciate everything, and all that you do and continue to do. But again, thanks again for coming and having a casual conversation, and I really appreciate it.
Not a
Happy
problem.
to do so.
So thank you.
Interested in learning more about Indiana 4-H? We invite you to visit our website, extension.purdue.edu/4H, or contact your local Purdue Extension office and ask for the 4-H Youth Development Extension Educator. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast so you won't miss an episode. We look forward to joining you again on the next Indiana 4-H Clover Call.